Thus I have heard. At one time, the Blessed One was dwelling in the royal domain of Vulture Peak Mountain with a great gathering of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Blessed One was absorbed in the samadhi of the many aspects of phenomena called profound appearance. At the same time, noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, looking at the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, saw the five skandhas in their natural emptiness. Then, through the power of the Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva, "How should a son of the lineage train who wishes to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom?" Thus he spoke, and the noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva answered the Venerable Shariputra with these words. Shariputra, those men and women of the lineage who wish to follow the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look at it like this. The five skandhas should be seen purely in their natural emptiness. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form also is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, recognition, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, and having no characteristics, they are unborn and unceasing. They are not impure or pure. They neither decrease nor increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no recognition, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no appearance, no sound, no smell, no taste, no sensation, no phenomena. There is no quality of sight and so on until no quality of mind and no quality of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance and so on up to no old age and death and no exhaustion of old age and death. In the same way, there is no suffering, no origin, no ending, and no path, no wisdom, no attainment, and no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, since there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide by means of the profound perfection of wisdom. And since their minds have no obscurations, they have no fear. Transcending falsity, they attain nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times have relied upon the perfection of wisdom and have become true and complete Buddhas of unsurpassable, perfect, and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the profound perfection of wisdom, the mantra of insight, the unsurpassed mantra, the unequaled mantra, The mantra which calms all suffering should be known as truth, for it is not deceptive. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Teata om gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhi soha. Shariputra, this is how a Bodhisattva Mahasattva should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that samadhi and said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, noble Avalokiteshvara, that he had spoken well. Well done, O son of the lineage, it is so. O son of the lineage, since it is just so, the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced just as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Sharadvati Putra and noble Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva Mahasattva and the entire gathering, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, rejoiced and praised the words of the Blessed One.
Doje Chenmo Deshe Doje Chong Choze De Lo Bodo Noro Bo Bian Chuan Zhou Bie Bodo Ade Shang Yao Le Xin Lo Ju Lo So Wa De Shang Bo Tu Mie Yin Nie Nao Zhu De Chuo De De Yue De Dong Zhao Bie Bie 这种故事的年数连么？了解识别知了所望的，了人与面兄弟的多呢。大我这么这边可就呢，三界观众宝宝要塞索，沙漠大月知了所望的，西周大别中阿的上。 嘎当点别明光中的节，念就能些过去送那送，嘎当那么那拉送完的，看见新的世界中啊么，我到这边我说的早点，当啊点别到不开着的，要是就把这那说完的。 教唆各地那么多劫，刚了刚的些年最终的，就当天梦我着存在，这些那么那那所望的，让家送着跟了大爷们，给上他把这边就我就，在人这边他给这把爷。 生在新年能了说话的，见我更多样大那么的，这面去见白了我学见，撒当了这样的老多的，多久强给我念多肉三年去当做节就当了。 想就不多那年就做，那个去天这边做那的，罗拉边些上街周波手，上街就做街就那了，想就不多那年就做。 那个去天这边做那的，罗拉边些上街周波手。 上街就做街就能了，想就不多当年就做，那个姐姐这边说那姐，罗拉边些上街就不有。啊，的去，呀，呀，大家我亚麻的修弄多，安尼的。 当然是他们跟了脚嘛，是吧？他们跟了脚，是的。那这这点咯，我说确实呢，小娃一年了是，可是确实的小娃年两年来的，确实就小娃两年，小娃两年来的是的三级小娃了，三级小娃是的调娃了，调娃是那搞不了，我说讲个搞娃结束的了，搞娃真的基本了，基本设备高了，我说讲基本这个是就算结了，缺这个是的。
As usual, first we begin with cultivating positive motivations, and in order to receive the teachings of Dharma. So, speaking about Dharma here, what is the purpose of purpose of receiving the teachings of the Dharma? Is to gain peace. Peace means nirvana. And what is meant by nirvana is a mental quiescence and happiness and joy. So this is our objective of listening to the teachings of the Dharma, as we all have a common goal of achieving lasting and, in other words, the eternal sort of happiness and joyful experiences that we all long to achieve.
ngāsu bēt pōchō lō dōrā, jitēnbī jibō tāngsān rō sēdē nāngī chē sā rō. Tā nāngī chē sō na jibō yō mā rē sēdē yāng chē kī kātē jā rō. Shawā sēne jāmbō tēne dē gō. Nāngī sē sō na bēt kār sā būgī chōng chōng lō yā sō rō jī rō. Tā tēdē chē dēn jitēn sēdē chē tāng chē wā yā na dā kāngā kī jibō jō tā rē jī bē tsēn chē gō yā rā dā ngāsu kī chō chō na shē yō sō na chē shawā dē 아니 생긴 나는 되네. 아니 링아에 손에 신리게 남바질라 샤와셀라 그래. 단다 이제 대비 집어동세서나 링아에 손에 베데 뢰샹에 질레 집어sel라 그러와. 베데 보조로.
So here now, in this the standpoint of the ordinary beings, or the mundane beings, when speaking about enjoying or experiencing, having an experience, joyful experiences and so forth, it's mostly driven by mental wanderings. You just let go of your minds and not paying much attention, with not being vigilant. Not being vigilant at all. This is how the mundane beings or the ordinary beings considering as enjoying their life or experiencing the joyful life and so on. Whereas the spiritual point of view, particularly the Dharma point of view, when speaking about experiences, having experience, joyful experience, it mainly refers to the mental quiescence. That is what is meant by joyful experience. Pacifying one's state of mind by means of pacifying one's mind, which also pacifies one's actions of the body, speech, and mind, which will be conduct to the body, speech, and minds will coming into being in a very peaceful manner. That is what is meant by the individual who actually is having experiences of having a joyful experiences. By relaxing your body and mind, one then visualize Buddha in the space before oneself. Buddha in a form of giving teachings to yourself and surrounded by all those lineage gurus of deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment, or the Lam Rim Chenmo. In the presence of those great beings or the sublime beings, yourself being in their presence, and you yourself is then surrounded by all other sentient beings who have the same objective of oneself, who long to achieve happiness and overcome sufferings, and try to cultivate a genuine sympathy towards all sentient beings, that by reflecting, by understanding that although they long to achieve happiness, but lack to cultivate cause that give rise to happiness. Although they want to, they have a desire for overcome suffering, but they are lacking the cause which eradicates the suffering and so on. With this understanding, one then have a genuine sympathy towards all other sentient beings and visualizing them being in presence of those great beings along with you. So with these visualizations, let's take a couple of minutes to remain in this visualization. So with these motivations, the teachings that we are receiving today is a great teachings on the stages of the path to enlightenment, or Janshuk Lam Rimpa. So then the first, this teachings of great teachers on the stages of the path to enlightenment begins by laying out the several important outlines, out of which the first, the greatness of the teaching, greatness of the authors given in order to show the teachings has noble souls. So with this, if we were to ask what is meant by the greatness of the authors given in order to show the teachings as noble souls, is to reflection upon the qualities of the body, speech, and mind of the teachers of the past, present, and future. And so with these reflections, understanding what kind of mental, physical quality of those great beings in the past have achieved, what kind of qualities of the body, speech, and mind of the middling, the followers of those great beings have achieved, and what kind of mental qualities of the body, speech, and mind of the present teacher who actually teaches you this great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment. So then here, the next outline talks about how showing the greatness of the teachings in order to engender respect for the teachings. So how do we, how do we show what is meant by showing the greatness of the teachings in order to engender the respect for the teachings? So when speaking about the teachings of the Dharma, Dharma, the teachings of the Dharma, he refers to the teachings given by the great two pioneers, of the teachings of given by those teachings given by the two pioneers, great Indian pioneers, the teachings so-called the profound view and the extensive deeds, complete profound teachings of extensive deeds and profound views.
당아 저기 최대의 초 카톡 시와이나 되게 점보보다라 니 벽 강제적이 현다 첨부 내가 저 파이지 현다 첨부 고물루도 통해서 그래 벽 강제적이 현다 첨부 써서나 아니 영어로 뭐 종합을 첨부로 와 아니 된저이 현다 첨부 되게 손비 아니 사보다 자치가 만나와 때문에 엔지라 거스 봐봐 아니 친해 제이드서 딜 보러 와.
So the great two pioneers of the land of Arya, referring to great Indian pioneers of Arya Nagarjuna and Asanga, and the great master or the Tibetan pioneers refers to Lama Tsongkhapa, whose teaching that we are discussing here. It's given that the teachings, complete teachings of extensive deeds and profound views.
사제 손바 니 시제다 샤와세데 다른 것도 통화 다다게 가서 로마타비 니 기노 줘버데 되겠지. 니 저희 사제 줘버더니 넘어가서 넘어졌다 저기 좀 발라니 런치 자와 신년 대비체 나온 때는 로치다 저기 많이 아니 난 로샤가.
So then this will then be followed by the teachings, what we call how to listen to the teachings, in which both the teachings and its author are great. And then the next another important outlines is the sequence in which the disciples are to be taught the actual instructions, and how to rely on the teacher, which is the root of our spiritual path, how the students train their mind after having relied on authentic teacher.
당가 좀 베들로드 로티네 라레치고 친해져도 뭐죠 사제 주고도 로네 인자는 내가 저 데이네데 주보때도 막 가져야돼 주보때데 저희 사제 제고는 셰어에서는 동시에도 소소 로네 지치와 인소나 피게 농후게 되라 소소게 지 방지지 제용으로 뒤고아들 되나.
So it has been years we discuss on these teachings of the great deities on the stages of the path to enlightenment. By now, I'm pretty certain that all of us is able to memorize the outlines, which are very important outlines, particularly the four major outlines. So the benefits of memorizing the four major outlines, so that whenever even if you close the text, Lam Rim text, and you're able to, recite yourself mentally of those four major outlines. So you're able to, actually to be able to summarize this teachings of great deities on the stages of the enlightenment. So memorizing these outlines is something that is very important and beneficial for oneself.
남방은 전화만 제대로 발니 런치 자와신 때는 로치다 자이리 많이 다 도모지 다 때는 로치다 자이리 발니 데이때는 니본에 비시 그거다 니보 제단에 비치니 도모지자 다 니보 제단에 비치들라니 런치 나자라 니보 제다 니본에 뭐지 다 도모지자 다 니본에 정말로 송 주부 중에다 규모의 런치를 많이 하서는 주부 된다 되면 주부 챔피언 런치를 많이 하서는 제제 다 도모니지자 다 주부 챔피언 런치를 많이 하서는 제라 송 대체는 주부고 senje khona de ba sende cheta chibi chu senje ne shoba lo chue je ta to mo ni de sa ta senje ne shoba lo chu la song senje ne lo ba lo bu bi je se lo ba re wa lo de sanje ma ju ba den ba lo ba lo bi re ba ni shi ba je to mo ni de sa ta lo ba lo bi re ba ni shi ba la song re shang senje lo ba la pi re shang senje lo ba lo de jang wa jang ne ma re shoba chu lo de da 테바치모 찔러서 제당 치바도 도제 테발하세리 다 동bol로 송 你想谁就老把老让这讲话，让人就谁就当把送，说你接单里边去，他懂不你的啥，说你接单里边去了送，刚了老比些，带老板那边去，带了老别人把去，他带了老别人把了你，学把接了老这档，去把的发现他们你了老车去，他对于那个学把接了老这点之呢，你去把的发现他们你了老车些的呢，告诉把当我从，你。发现他们你不得3点就老把当写了，搞3点就发现当写了就发现你就那呢，你发现你了老吃的了，你啥地方别的啊？
So we are on the particular chapter of how to train in the last two perfections. The last two perfections are the perfection of concentration and perfection of wisdom.
啊，的确，当然容易的，他就是当把突击全部的联盟呢，就小了9、8千的上次老些的人，没谁给解决进度啊。
So here, this particular chapter, begins often with, with homage verse, homage lines, where it says, "The most venerable teachers have great compassion. I bow to the respect at their feet."
啊，的确，的确，我就不去那么，就是那么弄了些的，就到那就，对吧？图标红包呢，加进去就什么大姐那么用手做吧去，你切吧的呢，就是两个样的，对象这把人也说不多。
Whenever we find the Lama Tsongkhapa's deities, when you find this beginning of his deities, many of his deities, that he makes salutation at the beginning of his text to the Venerable Gurus. So the salutation he made to the Venerable Gurus is referring to the Buddha Shakyamuni and then his followers, such as great lineage gurus of the Indian masters. And particularly he pay homage to his own direct guru, Manjushri.
对，对了，当然老是研究把现在都是说的，别那个做点的对吧？那的啊，那么真就同一次大概经验所套似的，那么真就同一次大概经验所套似的，你就让我那么怎么把全部也，你就真讲别人就这样了的呢，我们打完你而言在呢，你先去搞来的，你没说的推送出来的，就长度的，你看到了。
So then it's also, if you look at the Lama Tsongkhapa's the praise to dependent originations, where he stated that by means of due to the kindness of my guru, I'm able to ease my mind or to able to rest my mind. So by means of the kindness of my guru, I'm able to cultivate a perfect view which understand the actual nature of reality. Thus, I have cultivated the eased mind or able to rest my mind.
啊，对是，这个你对身边没得，点的对吧？可能弄落了，几种不去见，但可能我从来没说，但连东北也能把这些点呢用了嘛就是了，你用嘛到了上班呢，大概搞这生活的你刚一东西就要用嘛到了上班呢，大概已经你说的搞啥？你说他妈的，用嘛到了上班呢，是嘛的，用嘛到了上班呢，天数找大概呢给的东西。 我们用的家用的用数做把的大用的个了，你大瓦一夸的呢，天数的查瓦记的不吃的3百的，我说你要是查的嘛，天数大概干啥，天数查的大概呢根据东西的，你跟这个一起东西查瓦的，你就是家边有那了点呢，你三斤有所投诉些的，我说刚那么老呢，用的厂家留的都是了哇。
So then you will also find in the same, the praise to dependent originations by Lama Tsongkhapa, where he stated that by means of understanding all those great treatises written by the great Indian masters, treatises or the great teachings, that I'm able to free myself from the net of doubt or the cage of doubt. So therefore, I'm able to ease my mind. It is because of the kindness of my great Venerable Guru, referring to Manjushri. So therefore, by relying upon, in other words, relying upon the middle view, or the relying upon the middle view, I have gained the perfect view of ultimate nature of reality, which frees my mind from the net of doubts and so on. So this is how normally the teachings with the salutation to the gurus or the Idam deities in order to complete their works, in order to complete their, the deities without obstacles. And then the purpose of composing the text is to benefit all other sentient beings, or to gain the state of enlightenment for the benefit of other sentient beings. So then also we find, in the beginning of text, which can also, right from the beginning of the text, that which basket of the teachings will be taught in this particular text will be reflected right from the beginning of the text. This can be understood by looking at the salutation verse itself. So then here, the particular how to train in the last two perfections. So let's begin with the text again, which is the volume 3, the Lam Rim text, volume 3, which begins from page 1. No, so sorry, page 13. If you have the volume 3 text. It says the perfection in the last two, the training in the last two perfections in particular is the way to cultivate meditative serenity and insight, because the serenity and insight are included under the perfection of meditative stabilization and wisdom respectively. So why it says in a meditative perfection, under the perfection, why it says it's training in the two perfections, particularly in a way to cultivate meditative serenity and insight. Because it says, very clear, it says, why it is not mentioned meditative stabilizations. It mentions meditative serenity instead, right? Why? So it's then because serenity and insight are included under the perfection of meditative stabilizations and wisdom respectively.
카투코로션 코로 과리 메시와이나 사대 파세 냥설린치 가르스나 다 띵겐지 냥설린치더라 띵겐지 냥설린치데 조신의 냥설린치를 주고래 아니 싫어 냥설린치데 하통 돈유도비 싫어질 라로 돈유도비 하통데 싫어데 돈유도비 하통 있잖아요 야구로 왔다 조치나. So the meditative stabilizations,
So the meditative serenity is also, the part of meditative stabilizations, and then wisdom realizing emptiness, or the vipassana, are actually the wisdom that ascertains ultimate nature of reality or emptiness.
다 될了在사지 주도 될了사지 주지 될了주지现在的拉动关闭偏远电你定义这根据对些的点吧现在的拉动的我电你个刚个比精神个人也比去所以老子老送的东北呢
So here it says this section has 6 parts. The benefits of cultivating serenity and insight, showing that this too includes all state of meditative concentrations. Then the third, the nature of serenity and insight. Fourth, why it is necessary to cultivate both. Fifth, how to be certain about their order. And sixth, how to train in each.
근데 거라 제가 용 첨부기 제시해 거라 사지 아마데 로는 소소지 단다도지 도도지 녀와이나 아니 코로만 제시저도 코시에도 세죠로 배나가서 배대고를 시고에는 미디 단다를 배대고를 시고를 세는지 고알에서나 용 첨부기 고아 가르치 제시 가세 전에서나 소소기 수 깨던 등고는 버도에 지어래 되면은 용 첨부 제시해야 돼 배도 토로
So it is very important to familiarize yourself with the outlines. Whenever you see the outlines in the beginning of the chapters, you will find the outlines. It's very beneficial. If you are able to memorize and familiarize yourself with these outlines, and later on, when you actually go through the actual explanation of the chapter, then you will be able to understand that, oh, this explanation is under the first outlines, and this explanation is based on the second outlines, and so on and so forth. You will be able to understand under which chapter that explanation is happening. So you will be able to understand that if you are able to memorize and familiarize yourself with those outlines right from the beginning.
그래서 용 첨부의 최장 차로로 동보내지 태바 최종의 편에 태바 최종의 연대 제대 받은 제대는 데바 탕체 현대다 라동긴 데바 인데 파바 공방 연반제 발레 샹바 양 년도 나지 랑 년도 나지 상추 선바 나지 랑 이제 시바 나지 기유추 제대 받은 제대는 데바 탕체 장 현대다 라동긴 데바 인바 리바 샤오 시송비 쇼로 어서도
So the benefit of cultivating serenity and insight, all of the mundane and supermundane good qualities of the Mahayana and Hinayana are the result of serenity and insight. Serenity and insight. The sutra unraveling the intended meanings, Samdhi Nirmachana Sutra says, Maitreya, you should know that all mundane and supermundane virtuous qualities, whether of Shavakas, Bodhisattvas, or Tadagatas, are the result of meditative serenity and insight.
되지. 당가 수치다 되지는 이제 템바스서나 파나마터비 파나마 가서마 다 통나면체선에다 조나면체지 강사 연수도 비지제 됐다라 지템비 지제 됐어요. 다 통나터비 강사에서나 파나터비 강사기 지제 됐다 지템는데 비 됐어요. 되지.
So what is meant by the mundane and supermundane good qualities? Some mundane qualities referring to the individual who have not reached the path of seeing. And in other words, the individual who are on the path of preparation and below are said to be the mundane beings, and their quality are said to be the mundane qualities. And the superior or the supreme here, mundane and supermundane qualities. Supermundane here refers to the individual who are on the path of seeing and above, and whose quality is said to be the supermundane qualities. So now, in brief, whether or not the distinction between the mundane and supermundane it depends on whether or not the individual have gained the path of seeing and above.
다들 시선 비셔라 다들 도체 나요도 도체는 렌저도 신나다 라동 강주터비 간사기 제제인데 마예나 yenте teta tangchi teni jenjebu jeta tenyana asene ani kasa dochuchi chenyud.
So here the column are not serenity and insight, insight, good qualities in mundane mind stream of the someone who has reached them through meditations. How is it possible for the good qualities of the result from those two?
Tijin nga so gangjung se de shene yön chöge lo la gangjung sa la gde ro gangjung yin na shene yön chöge lo la gangjung sa la gore yin zan nga so gi ji lo gangjung yo mar den je ten bi yön ten ga shi yo ro ko shene gi jobu kan de cha gre sen to ba de.
So here now the meditation is actually, belongs to the part of serenity. It actually belongs to the serenity, part of serenity. Although that we may not have cultivated, for us as ordinary beings, we may not have cultivated this mental serenity or the serenity, but we do have some, mundane quality, the mundane quality.
다도 다되게 렌저요. shene da la to ngone chebanjowa ta gangjung tobi kansa기 jeje yenten yinbe teba checho yenten tangche denye jenjebu mayin jang geyi mipala sen zejiba yin che de dingen zena shene je shosun de la je tawa ta jinjin bi den soso ji bi shero gewa na la to ge shosun de denyi mare tela gone teba sonje yenten tangche shala genjebu somba dan gewa medo son later.
So now here, answer to the question. It says reply. As will be explained, actual serenity and insight are good qualities in the mind stream of someone who has attained them through meditations. So all the good qualities of the Mahayana and Hinayana do not result from them. However, concentrations which at least involves one-pointedness on a virtuous object are classified with serenities. Virtuous cognition that distinguish an ultimate or the conventional object are classified with insights. So this is what the sutra means in stating that all of the virtuous qualities of the three vehicles are result from serenity and insight. So there is no contradiction.
되게 되다 맞게 된다 고도도 가서는 아니 대송바데 아니 땡엔제 제집이 땡엔제 신내 이거 처음으로 제집이 땡엔제 리스 답 연수 줘바데 신내지 콘도스 뒤바레 아니 시가르사 소소집이 싫어기 콘도 연수 줘바데 아니 하동 코스 뒤비 진센지 아니 저버에서 송바레마도 코 인비기 하동도 가서 신내다 하동 인비기 좀 말해서 왔다.
So it is not necessarily identifying this or the serenity and the wisdom or the wisdom realizing emptiness, but this concentrations, the single pointed concentrations are actually classified or belongs to the category of concentration belongs to the category of the mental serenity, and conventional. Then also the ultimate or the conventional object are cognition that distinguish an ultimate or conventional object are classified with the insight. So therefore, it is not necessarily that whatever that is the wisdom should be belongs to the path of seeing, or the vipassana or the serenity, but it is what is the mainly explaining here is to the classification, which is the classified insight and classified serenity.
Te yimbi temar diche. Tela gone tepa chembola tepa gombi dole jang. Rijiba nadon de jang. Deta shanchu semba naji tepa chembola tibi tepa chembole shonwa kanchi yang rong. Te tangche ne namba miyiwi senche. Tenta che yang taba samba le shonyo riba shao she sonde. Mayibi sene shene ji sho zeji ba yen la. Tenta che yang taba semba ne hatongi sho soso tobi shirao bo sote. Yanda diri.
So with the same purport, the Sutra of Cultivating the Faith in Mahayana, so Mahayana Prasada Pavana Sutra states, child of good lineage, this list should inform you that faith in the Mahayana or the Bodhisattvas, and indeed, everything resulting from the Mahayana comes from accurately reflecting on the fact and the meaning with an undistracted minds. An undistracted mind is a mental one-pointedness, and the serenity aspect. Well, accurate reflection on the fact and the meaning refers to the discerning wisdoms and insight aspect. Thus, you must achieve all good qualities of the two vehicles through both.
되게 대다서는 변화 다른 가족이 가스부가 신내다 하나 그 말에 이게 되게 강비 편시고로 강비 편시디 내가 파쇼기 강사 코너라 내가 코너 내게 약간 좀 가르치고 그래서는 세 넘버 미어 종에 제다 된다 10번 종에 일이 아니 신내다 하도 편리해서 된다 되고.
So here, at this point, we were actually discussing on the benefits of the wisdom, benefits of the one-pointedness or the serenity aspect, and the benefits. So, what is meant by the serenity is the mental one-pointedness without undistracted mind. In other words, undistracted mind or the one-pointedness. And then and then it says the reflection on the fact and the meaning, which means the discerning wisdom.
텔레코디 하시는 데를 배나 가서 나고노로라 심하다 오지 바비콜라 심하도 롱이 요도나 심하게 세차도 메기 때투고 말해 세차 때마도나 미더버티게 단다 데인다 마이비 요와도 셰투고 말해 수소도 샤라기.
So for instance, if we light up, if we light the lamp in the dark place, if there is a wind blowing from a different directions, then the clarity of the lamp will not be strong. Therefore, you will not be able to see very clearly because the flicker of this lamp.
대나 세다 대나 베테레 대나 테바체준이 대통치 소소도 비 싫어지 시에 정한다 미발에 찌집이지 두고바 인지 조간도 시간 쇼레 두바 많이 넣어 쏘야 돼 대다 데리 신편
Thus you must achieve all good qualities of the two vehicles through both sustained analysis with the discerning wisdom and one-pointed focus on the object of wisdom. You do not achieve them through one-sided practice of either analytical meditation or the stabilizing meditations.
다 되니 매와는 신내 찍고여서 신내 찍고 주바 당이 파지 몇들 야제지는 거야마 때 찍고를 추게제 되어 있나 그 sempa mipa chila de de mado de de no lo dondo chesha ta yaje lo che ya marwa yaje lo la secha de to ne shira gi che ba chen yaje lo
So it's always requires the just meditation or the stabilizing meditation alone. It's not adequate at all. It requires with the on the basis of cultivating stabilizing meditations, one then need to cultivate the discerning wisdom. So without which you will not be achieve uh, the spiritual goal.
de she je gan jo ga de she gan ni shore kan rewe druba me ma yin no so de ge kwa de de le ya de 내가 배치 뭐 가르사는 가서 뒤손 될래 조건 찍고 이 리그를 쓰는 게 뒤손라 게게 못 버리 다가는 리그를 쓰는 게
So here, when it says that you do not achieve them through one-sided practice of either analytical meditation or the stabilizing meditation, it actually it's a really telling, because now without the combination of these two, one will not be able to reach anywhere, because even now there are many who claims that stabilizing meditation alone is sufficient. It is an adequate meditation to reach your spiritual goal. However, it requires both of them.
Me no chi te ya gun de le so do jiao bo yi la dong dang xie ne gong ba xie ne 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 nge lian ji qing wa dang ci mi qing wa nang zhu ju de xie so so do
So then here it says, also the sutra unraveling the intent meaning states, once people have cultivated insight and serenity, they are free from the bondage of dysfunctional tendencies and from the bondage of signs.
nga so ha ko gure chi pang ba la ro wa xie ne mai yi me ta ne mai nge de me bo so yin ba ti to ne ju gu ro wa ne xie ne chi ko le cha do na ya wa se ke che gu ma de dan de yi ka ri xie gu re ne nge le ji chi wa de xie ne yi pang gu re ne ma re ne nge le ji chi wa de ne la to gi pang gu re ne ce me chi wa de xie ne yi pang gu re ya song do wa de de xie jo song de je ne pang ne ma do xie wa ji ko ja na
So here it very clearly mentions that how important it is for us to cultivate, practice both meditative, stabilizing meditation, and also the analytical meditations, because both of them has a different functions. One eradication of different type of afflictions, and another has another different type of afflictions. So therefore, both of them has a different functions to eradicate their afflictions. So therefore, it is important to have both of this. Practice it should be practiced. One's practice of meditative stabilizations in conjunction with the discerning wisdom or analytical meditations.
저 보이 하던 게 세디 저 관계에서는 이렇게 저기도 저 관계 하던 공부다 신의 공부를 때네 내가 이제 치와당 체면 치와 저거래 세디 저 보이 세디 아니 저 보 관계에서는 저 관계 세디 자도 되게 고관련되거든 그래서 정말로 카도 고관련 거야나 장전도 편거로
So here, people have cultivated insight. So referring to any individuals, who have cultivated insight and serenity, they are free from the bondage of dysfunctional tendencies and from the bondage of signs. So that, but the meditative here again, cultivating that insight. Cultivating insight will
will actually free from the bondage of dysfunctional tendency and cultivating with insight, free from the bondage of science.
Antiche. That you want to shit you do. Tangazo, Nang less as one, Shiji, Pachaja, and it's Semeshijun, Nutrisha. And it Tangazo, Jini, Bombi Chetala, Tantacaleja de Eteroa. Shenet and Hatoni, Japan, Carison, Jini Bombi Piersana, the subject of Pian to Taran Chandra.
So here, now, what is meant by the dysfunctional tendency is referring to the latency or the potency of the obscuration and the omniscience, and the sign referring to the delusions. So those two, in order to eradicate both of these two, requires both insight and serenity.
She saw tell a name and nails on the ye just shooting low, Kone Conde Jebi, Nupa, Sendila Nebi, Pacha, Shedije. Samane, shooting low, la Mumba Shemba, Kashin Jonga, and Pacha Soa Town, Hama, Hatongi Panda, Shema Sheneji Power, Sheshe Mengale Sheto, or something.
So here, dysfunctional tendency refers to the latent propensities in your mind stream, which can produce increasing degree of misconceptions. Sign here refers to ongoing attachment to erroneous object, which foster the propensities. So Ratnakara Santi, the instruction of the perfection of wisdom, Prajnaparamita, Prajnapara Mitopadasa, says that insight element is the former, while serenity element is the later.
Take it, Japan, but any Shanada Hatoni, you pound out the air song. And Jeda, Matsu Denzi, and Denzi said the Karidoja Sana, Hami Pacha Yabatella Pacha, the Haba de Pevaja, Pacha Sat Shabadan, the Denzi Chegura. Tenji Pasha, but Denzi, cities and Denzi Shabi, and you know to be chatty Segura, cities and Chomochil.
So this,
Tandatella Soa Sedua, Hama Soa said, Denzi, and Kasa Shidi can't solve said.
so this, that the Latin propensities is referring to the propensity which give rise to the obscuration and the omniscience, right? So uh, so therefore, the dysfunctional tendency will be eradicated by means of insight, and then uh, and then the science or refers to the ongoing attachment to erroneous object which fosters the propensities. So therefore, all of this these two obscuration, the omniscience, obscurity power, or the delusions can be eradicated by cultivating the cultivating insight and serenity.
Dedani Shenaki Tanya Dabi Pien Yinji, Sheneda Latongi Tanya Madabi Mata Jang, Dundawa, Sande de Sheraji Pien Soba, Nan Jang, Deni Japan de Sheba Shao or Sondo.
So these are the benefits attributed to the serenity and insight. But even when the terms serenity and insight are not used, there are similar statements about the benefits of the meditative stabilization and wisdom. Realize that such statement describes the benefit of serenity and insight.
Patang Kamachu.
Take a 10 minutes break here.
现在的话都也没到偏的，他的西马达，今年也没马达那样，你上电发现也你偏西北过了这样，现在也偏的，你西肉发现过了偏西这样，他同也偏的送多。
So although it is not given a name, of serenity, but when it serenity and spatial insight, but with wisdom, but when it explains, when it gives you the explanations of the benefits of serenity and insight, it actually explains the benefits of meditative concentration and spatial insight.
这刚才是那点儿啊，我说对人呢，上点三了，安吉结果，上点三了，安吉结果是上点三的三安的就业的结果那就得了是，刚才是呢，那你三的没把了嘛，下边搞了人安不，那三把没给予没把了嘛，就别搞了，当然你给予没把给了就，离三的时候也得签这样上来的了啊。
So here why because when here talks about the benefits of meditative concentrations, where it says the concentration is the king with the power over the mind. Therefore, it says so when it says over the mind. So if set, it will not waver like a powerful mountains. When focus, it enters into all virtuous object. It will actually, focus only on the virtuous object.
这也相当重要的。但那我做个三的，个人安全的多少？我做这个三，但那我做三的，人个安全的多的了啊。人个安全的，让那恰当情况的多的，让那公共那些情况的多呢，我做三了让没哇，等等。
恰当的情况的，什么开始？
原本本来公共那性质就三个人，比如说这边那可以往那多。
So because at the moment, the mind of our ordinary beings, we have not cultivated this the king-like concentrations, because our mind is remaining under the power of others. It is remaining others' power, under the others' powers. Other power here referring to either one's mind is remaining under the power of, attachment or the aversion, or our mind is remaining under the power of the five sense, consciousness.
但我就写了一篇对的学员，他写了上面对你带一面是，他写了一做对了，我从吉隆坡去叫他同学个谁的，他同搞了没谁的那结巴等多，那我呢我的这当结完呢写了一个我从写了上面对你带一面送完了，随便找中年级别了。
So here, we will actually elaborate, the benefits, and it will go to the detailed explanation will be taught in the next chapter. But here, what Lama Tsongkhapa has stated is now, as we already talked about, the concentration is like is the king with the power over the mind. And then also he stated the wisdom is the eye that sees the profound suchness or the deadness, and the path removing the samsara from its root.
的确，他实际你把现在的拉动你把的定义是根据这些看的是老爷那是定义是根据这些的点吧送到啊，这看的是你把呢送到，别那些东北啦雅各当罗马当面多，这不他也不是越讲，提到看了的比那呢早晚赢吧大，提把其中的定义是。他也不是各自把汤姐讲刚对比那当把呢，现在当他同意的公职来送到。
So how the serenity and insight includes all state of meditative concentrations. So we're on this next second chapter, second paragraph of page 15. So the branches, leaves, flowers, and fruits of a tree are limitless. At the core point at which they all come together is the root. As in this example, serenity, and insight. Serenity and insight are the sublime core at which gathers all that the Buddha says about the limitless state of meditative concentration in Mahayana and Hinayana. The Buddha are unraveling the intent meaning states.
다 gondele alinga masu 야 gondele 치 nye tu nang shangchu senpa nang dejen sheba nang ji dingen zin nang ba duma tenpa gang yin ba tenda tangje jang shene dang lang tong ki duba riba sha wo xie song so.
Then here it's clearly mentioned that the Sutra unraveling the intent meaning states, know that serenity and insight include all of the many aspects of the state of meditative concentrations, which I have taught for Charvakas, Bodhisattvas, and Tathagatas.
네 가서기 내가 도 가르친 거잖아. 다 땡겐데 타야바도 매매바지 여래다 간사라니게 라네 또네 땡겐지 지 두고 와이나 아니 셴네는 것도네 아니 나통 라지를 제도 제거래 소에 때리 된다.
So then here, if one is willing to meditate, if one have willingness of endeavoring on the practice of meditative concentrations and serenity, it begins from the practice of serenity, right? With the practice of serenity, on the basis of development of serenity, one then gains insight.
답변은 가서 게도 가서 게 강해로 와지 신내도 우지 두나 아니 땡겐들라로 태용 로 센라로 태용으로 센라로 도 땡겐지 본타 사이 본거였으나 될 되용으로 되나기 힘이 야가로만 가서 야가 자알 리거 송도와 네.
So regardless of how much the concentrations that we may have cultivated, all the concentrations, the many aspects of the state of meditative concentrations are all included within the serenity and insight, or the serenity, in other words, because once you're able to cultivate serenity, perfectly, then one will gain a freedom over one's mind.
되지. 대나게 가서 배신하잖아. 되게 배나 상하잖아. 상하는 배나 가서 요즘 번들 동타 되지 전에는 동타 되지 전에 예. 싸워질래 때문에 야가 전에. 동지 전에 노로 롱 되지 전에 나시 되지 전에 파 당도 거라. 아니 산로네 되는 강정에 대해서 이 용수 줘봐대. 아니 이게 장도 노는 되요데. 다 단지 동자 되지 자니데 리서치를 뒤두고 대나게 땡겐지 지주소나 아니 콜 조소나 아니 나이 차소나 가도디 땡겐 연수 좀 리서치를 돼요. 맞아 산도를 대자는 신도니 된다도.
So here, just like if we were to take an example of the teachings that we find in the Tantra, in the Tantrayanas, where it's said to be there are 72,000 of channels within us, and those 72, along with those 72 channels, there are 72 energy, or the wind, and all this along with this energy wind, there are 72 different kinds of consciousness. So now, if one is able to combine and bring all this energy, winds, and consciousness are able to draw within this central channels, then all those the consciousness and the winds and their the energies are drawn within one single channels. Previously, it is always scattered everywhere with the different channels with different winds and so on and so forth. But when one is able to withdraw all those wind within the central channels, then all of those, regardless of how different they may be, but it can be, withdrawn within the single channel, or single channel refers to the middle channels, or similarly, but regardless of how many the different the varieties of the meditative concentration there may be, so all of them actually included within the serenity.
Long content is the nashit and do to a then again. Things in this a chill due to a yena, things in chato de do a giredo.
If one is able to incorporate all those meditative concentrations within one's serenity, then one will be able to, one will be able to cultivate, or master over the single pointedness.
Tena so things the third yawa say yawa tayaba zeba minebe so things the kinji chichin shilagi jonsi lepa zela dukin to temba shade gone babale so to there loja said tanjone seguro.
Therefore, since those who are intended, since those who are intent on training meditative concentrations cannot comprehend a limitless number of distinct forms, they should know well and always rely on the techniques for sustaining serenity and insight, and their synthesis of the concentrations. Kamala Shila's the third stage of meditations, or Bhavana Karma says.
Take a Sido, Maso, say your Tayaba city, thinking the same, Shija Kachala thing in the Chabura, Shija Kachala Shipe Chabura, Shipe Kachala thing in the Chogoyana, thinking the Yosu Zoba Tsuru, Maso Nyan Chitangana to Mares. Gigi change, Shene Druaina, thinking the Kangati Diore, and then Johnson Lambati, Nebatu, and Sheneda Hato Johnson.
So what it says here is now, as there is a limitless object of knowledge, or the phenomena, in other words, as there are limitless object of knowledge, there are also limitless, meditative concentrations, or the Tingizin, and limitless, limitless consciousness, in other words. If one is able to cultivate meditative serenity, and regardless of how variety, the number of, the quantity of this meditative concentration there may be, but all of this meditative concentration can be included, it can be incorporated within the one single meditative serenity.
Teaching, saying the they cassette just a show like it. Matson, Shunju, Hajat, the Chibare. Ranji, you want the show that Sajatanji, you want the Chibare, so on. And thing is, in Chile, maybe Shin the Rutu Aina, thing is the Chato de Delay. Matson, Pejane, and the Jotanji Guayo to Marise, Gia, the Chibare.
So just like Shantideva's Guide to the Voice of Life said that if one is able to subdue one's mind, it actually equals the subjugation of the mind of all other sentient beings. Similarly, if one is able to master it over serenity, and then all the concentrations, meditative concentrations, will be accomplished as byproduct. So just we often we have discussed many times on that. When there is if one has a very good sole of shoes, one can walk over that over the land which is full of needles and so forth.
Gomashade Gori Baba Lechi. Tell a chamde de Shanchu Samba Nanji, Tingins in Tadeba, Semeba, Padu Mebala Soba, then the Saint John. Sheneta Laton Eji Tingins in Tanchila Chabiana, Sheneta Laton Sondo Joa Jupi, Lan Teni Joba Shao, Shedan, Gori Baba Le. Teni Tingins in Tanchi Dubi Sher, Nenjoba Tanchi, Du Tanchi do Nieba, Sheneta Laton Demba Shade, Shesumba Taro also.
Although the Bhagavan therein presented distinct bodhisattva's concentration beyond number or measure, the serenity and insight over all of them. Therefore, we will discuss just the path which unites serenity and insight. And as stated in the Kamala's second stage of meditations, since those two included all stages of meditative concentrations, all yogis should at all times definitely rely upon serenity and insight.
되게 냐네바지 세거로 간제 산자살은 동네지 인치제라 근데니 매는 저래로 샹추기 샌드 생에서 kok경로게 차기 땡에 들어와 차기 때문에 감사 되니게 라네도 나가노야 라네도 배쳐도는 용어야나 생기 땡에 유대 되나 근데니 매면 저러와
So without with this too, it is not possible for one to embark upon the path of enlightenment. So therefore, these two are very necessary, and it requires for one to, for one's own state of enlightenment.
그 땡겐지 탕치지 뒤셔이 비시 내줘봤더니 뒤 탕치도 네바도 셴에다 나도 땜바샤고 송소아.
Therefore, here it says, although the Bhagavan therein presented distinct bodhisattva's concentration beyond number and measure, serenity and insight over all of them, the serenity and insight cover all of them. Therefore, we will discuss just the path which unites serenity and insight. Since those two include the state of meditative concentration, all yogis should at all time definitely rely upon serenity and insight.
되게 고아리를 가르고서나 맞을 때는 수지 상제산에 배나 상한의 신의 자유가 된다 되게 정말 연수도 봐 생제 연대 통나 주 소고야나 아니 생들 세차다 땡차대 녀바도 걸어 생들 때 세차다 땡차 엔디건의 제바체 토에 녀바 더 생주 통에 장 지대지 존지적으로 와.
So here now it is important to, really when speaking about the spiritual development is really referring to the mental development. That is what is meant by spiritual development. For instance, if one is engaging in the practice of Vajrayana, such as visualization of supported and supporting mandalas, and all of this practice must be arose out of one's development of mental concentrations. And it is through the development of sustaining the clarity, undistracted state of minds. So this clarity, undistracted state of mind can be achieved by means of developing mental quality.
그렇지. 그래서 내가 저거지 제다 내가 저거서 그러 라네지 또 진짜라 다 가제 소소 주대 노노라 라네지 또네 양네지 제거해서 로기야나 그러 다 매무초래 태바첨보 강게 최대 라네 상추생 깨점 시어제 태바첨보 간제지기 저번에 요거에서나 제네다 하던 얘기 매발라 로서 진이요 말이 계속 상주생게 영화 가세타나 손을 중에면 dream에 되는 진짜 손을 쳐부터 와라 양치지 땡긴 거래 지내 거래 뒤면제 되도 저래마도 사실 계획으로도.
So without this too, so we will not able to, develop further. Will not go beyond. So therefore, if one desire to achieve the result of one's practice, and the unity of serenity, the practice of unity of serenity in insight is something that is inevitable. So therefore, it really needs one to cultivate. So here, even though without which, even though that how much, how mastered that you are, maybe over bodhicitta, the bodhicitta will only take you till the path of accumulations, the small path of accumulations. In order to transcend from small part to the greater part of accumulations, it requires serenity, the mental serenity, development of mental serenity. The master of perfect mental serenity will transcend oneself to the path of the great path of accumulations. So you cannot go beyond that without serenity and insight. Without serenity, we will then keep rotating only on listening and contemplations. Will not go beyond that. Will not be able to achieve perfect meditations. Will not be able to engage in a perfect meditations.
That's Sombala Shene, Shene, the Hato Yamon, say such a somebody. Sombalas, Tomba Shene Jamone, on the Gondele. Did you be but do there? Never do the not the young, that Shane, Jetta Lepa Sambi, sure that up. Ni Yila Shejin. Saint Kangi Yila Shebi sent it, sent it down to Jinchas Yila Sheba, Shepe Yila Sheto also.
So that the nature of serenity and insight. As to the nature of serenity, it is as stated in the Sutra Unraveling the Intent Meanings. Well, you dwell in solitude and properly direct your attention inward. You attend to just those topics upon which you have carefully reflected. Your attention is mentally engaged by continuously attending inwardly. The state of mind when you do this and stay this way often, and in which both physical and mental plans arise, is called serenity.
Teta Shushin tell Lam Mount never tell Lu Shin the Jangwa, Senshin the Jangwa Shua, Kan but then Shene Shade. Teta Shanchu Samba Shene Yonsu Sheba, Yeno, Shesomba Taro, so keep out the logo.
So I think I overread it earlier. So here now, let's once again, we'll go back to the state of mind wherein you do this, and the state in which the both physical and mental appliances arises is called serenity.
Shesomba Taro. Get the Jong set Chansoma Dosha go, Jong Corona, Jong Radisha, then Tunisian and Rishijab. The Sora Yana Juni, Gansa, Nepashawa, Pombola Sopi, Gaya Romashi, Beauty, Shene, Della may be said, Gender Mewa, Jinshiji, Jinchas, Miba Della, Tabe, Semi Pala, Rangi Mangi Nede, Lucen Shindo Jamwa, Jambi, Gadecheva, Na, Dingin Zente, Shines Jude. Dene Semi Pala, Mewa, not the Zonga, Zangle, Jeva Yinji, Nubi de Konani Kondichiba, Medeso, also how long you on there. So she thought she was the Shiji along the Tasha.
So this means that you take as an object of meditation any appropriate objects, such as the 5 aggregates, having determined that it is a topic in the 12 branches of the scripture, with undistracted mindfulness and vigilance. You focus your attention on this object and fix it to the object continuously so that your mind stabilizes of its own accord on the object of meditations. When you produce the delight and bliss of physical and mental pliancy, then your state of meditative concentrations becomes serenity. This comes about through just sustaining your attention inwardly without distractions from the object of meditation. It is not contingent upon understanding the reality of the thing. As to the nature of insight, the same sutta says.
되지. 주당이나 가서기 그런 가서 생이 받아서기 그뭐 가져져서라서나 아니 변화 장기 미래 제지도 녀바 자다지 아니 리센 신장이 되와 치빠진 데비 아니 땡겨지지라서 동보들라다 장기 미발에 제지도 녀바 자다지 아니 리센 강로기 아니 신장 되와 치빠진 제통에 땡겨지지라 신에서 라그리 살라나.
So here now, it actually it gives you the actual definition of what is meant by serenity, right? It says, when you produce the delight and bliss of physical and mental pliancy, then your state of meditative concentration becomes serenity. So this actually covers the actual definition of what is meant as a definition of the mental serenity.
되지. 다들 중대기 저셔데 배나 가서 가서 주부대 그런 신에게 초대받아 더 참소대 패칭에 오되는 수수로서 되는 제바 용어를 사오도 되게 쉬우자고서 말씀.
So the detailed explanation that we will be discussing in later.
되지. 그게 내가 가르쳐는 배나 가서 배나 나비 좋은데 시작전에 신의 중에 지소나 배나 단단되는 소리 연락 주니라 수비 대사도 가지 대신 마다마다 오지라 미바자나래 다음에 번도 오지라 미바자네 아니 대라 전시 때는 양도 자네 아니 된적이 땡겨지 집어대 리센 대화지 가디 대소나 될 신의 소리에서는 또 중첩이 이제히 레바로 왔다네.
So here it says, this means that you take an object of meditation, any appropriate object, as the five aggregates having, determined that it is the topic in 12 branches of scripture, with undistracted mindfulness and vigilance. You focus your attention on this object and fix it to the object continuously so that your mind stabilizes in its own accord with the object of meditations. Take it, the object of meditation, it can be refers to Four Noble Truths or impermanence or the selflessness. So long as when you are able to, stabilize your own mind, its own accord on the object of meditation, whatever the object that you may have chosen for your meditations, such as selflessness, impermanence, Four Noble Truths, and so on. So if you have when you produce the delight and bliss of physical and mental pliancy, with regard to those observation, then at that point, your concentration becomes serenity.
가서 마땅한 시절로 전시기 짜지 탑에 아니 땡에들이 이들 미발에 자주고 그러 맞아 땡에들 일을 넘어 잡을세디 로지기 피길을 따네 데데 지고 많이 봐 전바지게 아니 고 살아야네 시 대다 시행이 손자전에 맞아 다 년에 그런 뜻이 더 신의 것을 중에도 된 라네 중에 지면서나 뜻이 가보도 맞아 가서는 로딩 가서 레동보다서 로 무지버세데 로 이질은 주비가로 로 현다지기 레카팅 가서 다다 공부하면 제투도 다 로로 공주된 비가라 피게 변화 대시시 비가로 버질라마 미바 전에 댕에나 아니 수는 전바다 시행이 살아잖아 전배죠 이 시행이 로도다 문도게 아니 따지쟁에 뒤질라 로송량도 용으로 해서 예바도 거래서 와 다다 따세지도.
When we're practicing meditative concentrations, just by concentration alone is not adequate. It requires mindfulness, and introspection. With the, for instance, if one chooses an image of Tathagata, or the Buddha's image, in other words, and try to develop meditative concentrations. And so you just by concentrating on that chosen object is not sufficient. That is not, ample practice that enables you to gain serenity. In order to gain serenity, one need to cultivate, both, and one need to cultivate the mindfulness and also the introspections. With this, with the help of this strong mindfulness and introspections, will then enables one to gain the serenity. One's concentration becomes serenity. Sorry.
데 가사 리센시드 잡에 에네 가데세데 에네 가서 가와다 대와세데 근데 레사 코지 소알라 대와 가와다 마르 리시 코지 소알라 가와다 이 센주 코지 소알 대와라 가와생게 마르 대와생게 근데 타니 제거래 대당에 배 제일 더외나 사서 먼저 산데 동복이 될라 예 대시어디 가데니스나 라도 처음에 대치 띵게 세대 데레도아 미발레 세치되는 와제디 당 아주 띵게지데 코론들 타치바 손송하시네 두발레 일라 타치 그 게어 말에 아니 미빠잖아 미와 나한테 센송아 짱레 제거래 손송아.
So here now it says, then your state of meditative concentration becomes serenity. So this comes about through just sustaining your attention inwardly, what it says, inwardly, without distraction from the object of meditations.
맞지. 맞지 띵게지데 유쇼데 시네토베데 유쇼데 베나 시네네 산데 도보니 바베 좀에게 뭐지 받은 저통이게 싫어 받은 거 여러와. 그래서 이게 인치 미지 일을 제바전에 타치네 녀모라 카데자 되게 맞아와지. 아니 강고 이게 녀모라 가서 변한 된대려. 데피게 대차를 이미 다 강고만 쉬었다네. 대장지 되어주네. 너는 이게 싫어 봐. 야 강도라. 얘나야 다 녀모도서는 이미 마다와 인자네 야제도스 게마레 이게도네 아말해비 소지.
So there are many non-Buddhist practitioners who have actually gained the heightened state of realizations by cultivating serenity here, by cultivating serenities. So who actually accomplish the quality of being in the formless realms by finding the faults in the desire realms attachment as a desire realms attachment, and engage in the practice of serenity and gain the heightened state of existence. So those practitioners, although they have not actually directly, applied any antidotes towards negative thoughts and emotions, it is due to their accomplishment of serenity, they gain the heightened state of existence. They gain the quality that they can go to the heightened state of existence.
저설로 쉬우지요 말에 맞으면 단단히 개천의 시행에나 자갈이 집어면도 아릴도에서 지혜레마도 고 녀모 집어 매바게 녀모는 이미 단에 로 컴퓨터 샤이게 레마도아.
So here those practitioners, however, they are not actually targeting towards the relinquishment of their delusions or the mental afflictions, but rather they're just completely, overwhelmed by being in the existence of the desire realms. So therefore, they look for a realm where they are free from the desire, free from the desire, and so forth. So this is the only, just for instance, if someone who would like to, go somewhere else, wanted to go to a different place where you are actually, become so, unhappy with certain place and where you wanted to go to a different place. So this is how they actually, transcend themselves from desire realm to the heightened state of realms.
You know, tell me, Tonju don't get you in the Marwa. She never do to get Jesona, but Tanja would you, Shija, and Tingola, Hatongi Jeba Jesona, any better Casamato, Moshe Chendi, Chetu Etero. She never Hatongi like a Rosa General. She Haton Rangi Tensionella Matema, and it don't you to be like Concha Ginger.
However, those practitioners were not actually, having any contemptuous attitude towards them, not at all, because accomplishment of serenity is not easy at all, because without serenity, you will not be able to have insight. There's no basis where you can actually develop your insight. With serenity, you then develop insight.
Dice. Ma so de sonji de bene shiro ba de se lota che nyanga chi de ke ge bene ma so taba sing ji yore se dewa chin sing ji yore sing ji ke ku se dewa chin sing de ani si zeng ge da bu je se sa de dong bo da bu je se na la ani de du de ye le bi ko la dong he ju dong he de me bo ma cha yu ju dong he de be le bi ko la da taba sing ni ma du se na lota che 아니 로다 잖아요. 좀 냐와네 제어서 내가 좀 시기던 생각을. 배는 때 고대와 개체시나 배는 아리 자가 되게 지게 아리 생인데 대화 제래서로나 아리는 대화 제지 말어. 연조파 자가파 로인데 칸들어. 대 러브도 지래다요. 그 통초스게 말에 조 생이 님이다 녀목이 님이도 맞다와 있잖아요. 지대게 대화 코너 취나 코너랑 있는 러시아디 강에대 최고로.
So here now, for instance, the ancient practitioner, the great, the practitioners, non-Buddhist practitioners, the meditators, who long to achieve, liberations, but their understanding of liberation is mere, transiting from one place to another place. It is therefore they long to achieve, take a, transcend from the desire realms to the first stage of meditative concentrations and second stage of meditative concentration and so on. So when they are able to accomplish such, heightened states, but they still are, not free from the sufferings. There's still suffering going on. And with this, then they then cultivate, they will have, the wrong view, or the wrong view is cultivated, because they then think now there's no such liberations, because regardless of how much you I go, concentration, first concentration, second concentration, state of second concentration, they are still suffering. So therefore, there's no such liberations. So then they will, fall back to the desire realms and so forth. It is just like someone who is not very happy to be in India and wanted to go to the United States. And when they come to the United States, they're thinking that the United States is a blissful place. But then there are many who would like to go back to India. So this is how they are. And because the reason being that is because they're not actually targeting, when they're practicing serenity, it's not really targeting towards, their mental afflictions, but rather they are looking for a different physical elements of this physical status where they can transcend from one physical place to another physical place.
Bondage. That's an idea, me but then Casa wanted to teach it. That not only mones and do any less. Gonde inside. The listen the Jambadan, sent the Jamba, de Tone, Denila, Nede, sent a number bone, Jetta Sambi, sure that ni, now the thing is to show you Zunia the Soso Toba, she, Soso Toba she, Mumba she to was. That thing is to show you Zunia Dedale, she did now. Shiji tende namba jeba tang, rod namba jeba tang, yonsu toba tang, yonsu shoba tang, zoba tang, deba tang, cheta jeba tang, tawa tang, namba toba gang yinba teta ne latong xexia de, teta ne shangju senpa, latong la keba yino, xe songba taro, songdu, xeje jelong jiba.
And as the nature of insight, the same sutra says, after you have intended after you have attained mental pliancy and physical pliancy, you stay therein and eliminate other mental aspects. You then regard inwardly and with discernments the mental image, which is the domain of meditative concentrations on the topics upon which you reflected. With reflection, with relation to the image, that are the domain of such concentrations, any differentiations of the meaning of these topics, of full differentiations, thorough examinations, and thorough analysis, forbearance, which differentiations of the particular view or thought is called insights. So this is the Bodhisattva skill insight.
되지. 되게 이때가 되래. 라통에다 이치미지 신내형도 단다데 배는 도루르라다. 도루르 신내에나 라통한도 비 차오리 차오데 이치미지 랑게 때 신내라 때 그래. 라통이 봐. 이거는 레신의 장의 센신의 장바 터네 데니라 내데 생겨 나버 본데세디 네네 레신의 가서 신내되게 생을 제지든 냐바 작으로 냐바 따데 되는 대방데 수수제비 샤로지라 라통도 그래.
So according according to the sutra system, in order to accomplish the insight, the serenity must be accomplished prior to accomplishment of insight, because it is through the serenity one is able to maintain and sustain one's concentrations. It is by means of sustenance of one's concentrations one then develops insight. So this is in a sutra system where it says serenity should be accomplished prior to accomplishment of one's insight.
되게 고아 다진게나 이게 천진자주 고아내고야나 되게 랑게 텐션을 때내서 일로 소소 제도지 리센 신장제 대화 쳐봤던지 리센 강로라고 리센 강로기 신장 대화 쳐봤던 준비 싫어지라 하통살라 그래.
So therefore then it says now with relation to the image that are the domain of such concentrations, the differentiation of the meaning of these topics, or the full differentiations through examinations, thorough analysis, forbearance, which differentiation of particulars, views, or or thought, it is called insight. So this actually covers the definition of insight.
신내다 나도 이게 쳐봤대 대야 신내나 조일을 냥빠 자다지 아니 류 제단되는데 개유처럼 거들어와다 생 개유처럼 제단되는데 거들어 신사 쳐봤지 나더서나 신내다 버래 아니 된주지 신내들 냥빠 자신배만에 아니 싫어기 소소 제다지 아니 류 개유처럼 제다 건데다 류생 개유처럼 제다 된데도 거들어 신사 대화 치면 제 같이 더서나 라동다 버래 라동다 신내다 라동이 고아조원에서 되는래다.
So if you look at here, after you have attained that mental fluency and the physical fluency, you stay therein, eliminate other mental aspects. You then regard inwardly and with discernments the mental image, which is the domain of the meditative concentrations on the topics upon which you reflected. Then it says with relation to the image that are the domain of such concentrations, any differentiations of the meaning of the topics of the full differentiations, thorough examinations and thorough analysis, forbearance, which differentiations of and differentiations of the particulars, view or thought is called insight. So this in this particular paragraph, it actually differentiates the serenity and insight.
现象与对话七八件事的旅现象是那个旅现象三现象是看这起来社会上呢，那给予去了就大团队的过得上嘛，是，可是一个人呢，对于我了，对的嘛都，我从那个加来看书都是一个对叫的蛮多，旅现象三现象特殊呢，那让我修全部来着。
So when you are able to accomplish the mental and physical pliancy, then you have actually, gained, some freedom, because you will not become exhausted, or you will not become a fatigue, regardless of how much practice you may undertake. But when you are engaging in the practice, engaging in a virtuous deed, or such as meditation and so forth, you will not be overwhelmed by tiredness and fatigues. So that regardless of how long that you may you may want to engage in meditation practice, you will do so without any obstacles, no sense of fatigues and tiredness and so forth.
这些写送把大罗是那天下个，这能第八路量听上去的，早上嘛一下想。
So we will stop here with this today.
当我说对的，他想就去生那康熙些这个刚刚讲，你想就去生的，可是想就去生的呢，就是去学报了后文生的，你看了就挺有东西，两个切削，你发现他们你了后这的，你让你给老呢，你就是。大家不毛头把做个上级就搞搞他把几家的协会，你些年吧样原来学毕业，你那么学那就看，那把那一节，你看大上接图就用不学啥呢？我的朋友家的。
Now let's do the dedications. We have now, discussed on the bodhisattva, the practice of bodhisattva state. And most important bodhisattva practice is the last two perfections. We're on those last two perfections right now. So now one must dedicate all the virtues that one have accumulated for the accomplishment of enlightenment, before long oneself and that of all other sentient beings. And may I be able to follow the teachings, unmistaken teachings of the great teachers and great masters. And may I be able to achieve the state of enlightenment for the benefit of all other beings. May all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the 10 directions please bless me to be able to do this.
遍地地地在我西我修，在今教育民众真难。来主相救能救真白讲，他的能救一老白的心，教育自保人都终究尽，老庄主别听见主席经，给进世界不当门面君，再入更多教育康保义，能当这我莫纠结。刚才颠簸求了去学习，取经住了尊宝地狱子，土地能就道度主席经，抓些将子修，要就一节，就是老命国子上天经，能够成的修学结果。罗藏天别真面扫松的，若月面色道度念旧节，广州绕月过月心放松，偏当天王毛连九月的，现在在王天在叫作业，小别心天光。点九节，江边抱怨知道钱包多，更多生活点样点钱点，跌到根据结束道路线，给我跌到当街说多么，对从西边叫我当街去，我光了就多黄波的。道人月月早晚就跟讲，从不谢谢老多。呀，对不起，Thank you。
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Ja, ja,
Thank
对不起，Nimala.
you, Nimala.